Welcome fans of Fate Grand Order. I am Avon and you're watching FGO Tips. This week we saw the rise of Epic of Remnant on the NA servers and the introduction of the Shinjuku Phantom Incident. As usual, I don't want to spoil any plot elements for anyone, so I decided to do a Q&A video to see what you all wanted to talk about. Before I jump into those questions though, I thought it was worth mentioning a couple of quick things about Shinjuku. First, as you probably noticed, our maximum master level has been raised to 140, so if you've been playing for a while and can't remember the last time you gained a master level, prepare for that bar to finally start moving again, at least for a little while. Before long you'll have those 10 extra levels filled in, so enjoy it while you can. Going from level 130 to 140 means an extra 2 AP, an extra 1 to your party cost, and an extra 10 friends. Second, evil servants are going to gain increased bond points from clearing quests in the Shinjuku Singularity. There's a complete list of evil servants in the in-game news section, but you can also check a servant's alignment for yourself in their profile section. Note that playing by the rules or not has nothing to do with it. That is to say, lawful evil or chaotic evil is still evil. And third, this Singularity is going to introduce break bars to the game. If you manage to clear the final battle in the memorial quest, you've seen these in action, but here's the breakdown just in case. Many challenge fights, and even some of the tougher bosses and story content, will now feature between 2 and 4 health bars, instead of 1. No matter how big of a nuke you drop on them, you can't deal more than a single bar of damage at a time. That is to say, excess damage does not carry over to the next bar. Any extra damage dealt is overkill, and the following health bar won't kick in until the enemy's turn. To make matters worse, some enemies will use special skills to buff themselves, or charge their NP when their next health bar kicks in. This transitions very nicely into our first question: how to best strategize around break bars. The truth is, a couple of extra health bars makes a huge difference in these fights. High damage one-shot parties like the obligatory Jalter Merlin aren't quite as effective when you consider the fact that it's no longer possible to win the fight in the first round. Other servants like Skahak, Kintoki, and even Anne and Mary suffer for the same reason. You have to rethink your party in terms of both offense and defense. Let's start with offense. Dealing consistent damage turn after turn becomes even more important than big burst damage. The bosses tend to have slightly less health per bar, but enough bars to draw it out over multiple turns. This means servants that can buff for multiple turns at a time, or generate multiple NPs back to back, are more useful than before. My favorites are the art servants like Archer Altria and Rider Mordred. They're great examples of art servants with arts buffs that will increase their damage and refill their gauges in no time. Arts support servants like Tamamo and Caster Gil can help out a lot here as well, with their own arts buffs to contribute. I am pretty biased towards arts teams myself, so that's the way my comps tend to lean, but you can use any party as long as you're able to keep dealing good damage turn after turn. But offense isn't enough on its own, because even if you can deal good damage turn after turn, you also have to consider the fact that now the enemy is going to be fighting back during those turns. Many enemies can launch an NP faster than 4 health bars can be drained. Suddenly defense starts to become a more important part of your team. Debuffs that drain the enemy NP gauge, charm them, or stun them can sometimes buy you enough time to finish the fight. This makes servants like Tamamo all the more appealing thanks to Witchcraft EX and healing from her NP and Fox's Wedding. There are plenty of other servants who can charm and stun as well, like Stheno, Uriel, and Shuten, so it's going to vary a little bit depending on who you have available to you. Alternatively, skills like Evade and Invincibility help you get through 1 or 2 NPs if you need to. Servants like Mosh can protect one ally at a time, while others like Merlin or David help protect the whole party at once. Each break bar fight is going to be a little bit different, but if you can put together a sustainable offense with a solid defense, you're going to have a much better shot at it. Maybe we can discuss some specific fights and team comps as they come up. In the meantime though, I want to make sure we get through some more questions. So, is the banner really worth summoning on, considering all the upcoming ones? Cause free-to-play life is hard. Well, I can't call myself free-to-play anymore, but even I still struggle to decide which banners are worth rolling on. I think the ultimate factor should be what servants you really like and find to be the most fun. But since I can't really answer that for you, let's talk about how useful the servants on this banner are. You might have noticed that starting with this Singularity, servants don't seem as eager to give out their true names anymore. To be honest, I always thought it was a little silly how quickly they did this in the first several, so it's kind of appropriate. Even better, the game has added a new mechanic which keeps the names of the servants hidden from you until you progress far enough in the game to reveal them. I don't want to spoil any of that, so let's just call them as they are. The Singularity will give us 2 separate banners eventually, but the first one features 5-star Archer of Shinjuku, 4-star Assassin of Shinjuku, and 4-star Avenger of Shinjuku. Archer is a limited servant who won't be added to the pool after this banner, which makes it a little tempting to roll, but we should see him on 2 more banners before the end of the year. He has 3 arts cards in his deck and decent NP generation thanks to an NP damage boosting skill, but his NP is Buster, which feels a little bit awkward, and his other skills don't mesh as nicely. Don't get me wrong, he's not a bad archer, but I don't think his place in the metagame makes it worth rolling for him just on usefulness alone, especially considering you should have at least one NP5 4-star archer already, and if you don't, then good news because the Guda Guda Honaji rerun is coming up next month in case you don't have Nobu yet. The Assassin of Shinjuku is a decent crit star generator with skills to serve this role pretty well. He can boost his drop rate and collect the stars for himself, or reduce his star gather rate to give them to your heavy damage dealer instead. Budget servants like Jinkei and Cursed Arm can do this almost as well though, and they don't cost you any Saint Quartz. Avenger of Shinjuku is the most interesting to me. Avengers aren't very common, and if you haven't picked one up yet, I can see how this might be a tempting target. He's a quick base servant with a single target quick NP and a chance to inflict instant death. All in all, if you have no weapons for fighting rulers yet, he is a tempting target, but he has less attack and HP than Jalter, Dantes, or Gorgon, so you're probably better off picking up one of them if you can. Gorgon, for example, will appear in the class-based banners coming out near the end of next month. The second banner for the Singularity will include a pair of 4-star servants in Emiya Alter and Altria Alter. These are decent servants, an archer and a saber respectively, but they still can't compare to many of the banners coming later this year. So looping back to the question, is this banner worth rolling on? If you're a whale who loves collecting, go for it. If you really love one of these servants, definitely don't let me stop you. But if you're a free-to-play player trying to pick the most useful servants you can on a budget, I would say hold off for now. Okay, moving away from Shinjuku now. How has the new meta servants in JP outshined our favorite servants like Jalter and others, stat-wise alone or with another servant? That is a question we could talk about for multiple videos, so I'm just gonna hit a few highlights. I promise no spoilers about plot stuff, but I am going to mention some of the servants we'll be seeing in the next 2 years, so if you absolutely don't want to hear that, skip ahead to the time shown now. Okay, starting with the stats. Looking 2 years into the future, no one tops Jalter's attack stat of 13,244. In fact, Ku Alter remains in second place at 12,805, Kintoki remains in third place at 12,712, and even Dantes remains in fourth place at 12,641. If you have any of these heavy hitters, rest assured they will still be heavy hitters for a long time. Unfortunately, as we discussed during the break bars question, the heavy hitters aren't as useful in all the big boss fights as they used to be. To be honest, break bars are one of the biggest meta-changing features we're gonna see for a long time. Now, once we hit 5th place though, we do have a 3-way tie between 3 new servants for attack. 2 sabers, Arthur and Sigurd, and the popular Okita Alter. None of these 3 will be sitting near the top of the useful list in 3 years though, so I guess we need to consider how servants work together and not just the stats. Merlin, Waver, and Tamamo remain near the top tier in usefulness, so don't feel like any investment you want to make in them now will ever be wasted. But best of all, in about a year and a half, we will finally get the quick version of what Tamamo is for arts and what Merlin is for Buster. Scotty, the ultimate quick support servant, basically single-handedly brings quick parties back into the relevant metagame. This will boost the usefulness of many of the quick servants we already have, like Dantes, Jack, and MHX Alter, as well as some of the new ones, like the Rider Achilles. And the other major meta shift is the addition of 3 more classes. Foreigners are the perfect weapon against Berserkers because they do double damage and take only half in return. Alter Egos exist mostly to deal double damage against Foreigners, since you can't rely on the normal Berserkers to hurt them. And lastly, the Moon Cancer, which will deal double damage against Avengers, finally giving them a major weakness. Picking up at least one of each of these classes will help diversify your roster and make sure you're prepared for any enemy. Thankfully, we get an Alter Ego and a Moon Cancer free as event servants. There have only been 3 foreigners added to the game in the JP version so far, so spend your quartz wisely if you want to pick up one of these. Alright now, next question. The ever controversial Arturia or Altria? Well, I'm going to call her Altria, and I'll tell you why. I make these videos for the NA version of the game, and a lot of the tips videos are for people that might be new to FGO or Fate in general. I don't want to confuse anyone who sees that her name is Altria in the game, so that's what I call her. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm not happy about it. Artoria makes more sense. It's closer to Arthur, and I think it's a cooler sounding name. Oh well, what can you do? While we're on the topic, question for everyone else. What do you call other servants? For example, this caster. I used to call her Blavatsky, but now I call her Helena. She told me to after all. And what about Elizabeth? I used to call her Liz for short, but she said Ellie is good, so maybe I'll try that one out. And what about Quetzalcoatl? I used to call her Ketz for short, but she seems to prefer Codal. That one sounds weird to me, it might take some getting used to. Okay, one more question from Amino. Favorite gacha summon so far? Favorite might be hard, but I can think of 3 moments that were fun or funny. The first was the result of me trying to predict all of my 3-star servants as they came up. For 2 or 3 videos in a row, I kept predicting Billy the Kid on every single archer, and he never showed his face. This prompted Poi Poi, sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, to post a prediction in the comment section about my next video. Specifically, that I would predict Billy the Kid, it would suddenly turn gold, and then there would be the 5-star servant on Rate Up, Summer Altria. I thought it was a funny joke, I laughed, and then, on the next video, it happened. Yeah, that was pretty crazy. The second roll that comes to mind actually happened on the same banner just a few minutes later. I already had my 5-star servant, but I rolled a few more because I really wanted the 4-star ruler Martha. I didn't get her, by the way. I still have 0 rulers. But what I did get was another event CE, and then another, and another. And well, 9 CEs in total. 8 of them were event CEs, and 7 of them were the exact same shaved ice CE. I genuinely thought my game was glitched for a minute when it kept playing the same animation over and over. But it was kind of funny. Lastly, I can't forget about all the times I failed trying to roll on banners featuring Jack the Ripper. She was the very first servant I saved up for when NA launched, and the servant I, to date, have spent more quartz on, and actually more money on, than any other servant in the game. More than Jalter, Kualter, Merlin, and Gramps combined. Until finally, during the Christmas rerun event, she showed up. That was probably the happiest I've ever been playing this game. And you know what? That's probably a good note to wrap this up on. If you do have any other questions for me, be sure to leave them in the comments, and I'll do my best to get another one of these done a bit faster next time. I want to say a special thanks to everyone who has subscribed so far because we have surpassed 10K, and that's truly cool. Thank you so much for your views and your support. I will be back with regular tips and event coverage soon, but in the meantime, good luck in Shinjuku, and as always, thanks for watching.